How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age. And we are going to be doing another episode of
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, as the voice likes to constantly remind us, which sounds like a line I may have said a number of times before. This is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age. And
why are you so dressed up for this?
What do you mean dressed up? I got a shave and a haircut.
2 bits.
I'll walk right into that one. How old are you?
Do you really want to know?
No, I don't think that I do. Okay, today we are going to be doing
a very tasty Golden Age female.
Tasty?
Yes, tasty.
I know she's hot, but tasty?
Are you not a fan of the miniskirts?
No, I'm actually a huge fan of the miniskirt, which is why I like female Golden Age characters.
You're as bad as I am.
I don't think anybody is as bad as you. Okay, so today...
I like the patriotic dressed female superheroes.
Well, yeah, the patriotic female superheroes always do dress much nicer than the other female superheroes in some instances. Okay, as I said, we are doing a female superhero today. Now, a while ago, I was asked to do Miss America by... Okay, I don't think the one that we're covering was the one that was asked for, because I found out there were 2 Miss Americas, one that came out in 41 and one that came out in 43. We are going to be covering the one that came out in 41 from Quality Comics. Now, a while ago, not only did I cover the creation of Quality Comics, I did a whole month of quality comic book characters where I cover characters like Blackhawk, Plastic Man, Spirit, Kid Eternity. This was not one of their more popular ones. I think that she suffered from a problem of timing. She wasn't the first female superhero to hit the papers or comic books. She wasn't the first female patriotic superhero. She wasn't the first patriotic superhero to wear a costume that was based on the flag in some way that looked patriotic. And honestly, I don't think that she was in the right publication. We'll get into that, why I think she was in the wrong publication.
What would make you say that?
Her powers were magic.
So you can't define her powers?
Well, no. I know a lot of times that you want to say that the powers are mystical in nature so you can explain how she's able to do the stuff. She is actually magic. And in her last appearance, it made her look more like a witch than someone who just possessed magical powers. I think the looks were the only thing that was really compelling about the superhero, because she faced absolutely no obstacles. And it wasn't even how we do it today, where we don't want to show female superheroes struggling in any way, and how we have perfect, and I don't want to say Mary Sue's, because I think that's going to get me negative comments in the comment section. But no, she was actually, her powers were the only thing compelling about her. She faced absolutely no obstacles because there was nothing she couldn't do. I will show you a lot of what she could do, and then I'll explain why I think that she was in the wrong publication. She was just, unfortunately, came out at the wrong time for everything that she was. If she had come out sooner, or maybe a little later after the fanfare of the other characters that came before her had died down, it might have been a different story. So let's go ahead and cover the unfortunate list of when she came out. And I think that they brought her back for DC because DC owned a lot of quality characters. So let's go ahead and cover
Miss America for Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Let's get started. Miss America, Joan Dale, first appeared in Military Comics #1 in 1941. She was published by Quality Comics, created by, looks like Elmer Wexler. Now, the unfortunate thing about Miss America is she was not the first female superhero. I believe the Woman in Red appeared before she did. She also wasn't the first patriotic superhero. That actually belongs to the Shield, which I covered, and he is actually the very first patriotic superhero. The same month that she came out, two more superheroes that were patriotic superheroes wearing the costume were Miss Victory and Pat Patriot. I have actually covered Pat Patriot, and they were actually wearing their costumes from the beginning. Miss America wouldn't actually start wearing her official costume until 1941, where she put on the miniskirt that I'm a big fan of. Also, at the same time that they were arriving, more female superheroes were coming out at the same time, such as Phantom Lady, Nelvina Wildfire, and all of these females just hitting a big way at once. Now, after the World War II ended, the females would see another resurgence, but that was for another reason, which we'll cover when we do the other Miss America. Now, I think that Miss America appearing in military comics was probably one of the reasons why she wasn't more well received. Now, I know giving her the name Miss America and putting her on military comics seems like a no-brainer. The only problem is her powers, which a lot of people were like, well, she's got matter changing, she's got flight. No, she had magic powers. In the very first issue, she gets magic powers given to her by the Statue of Liberty. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's what happened. I will be covering that when I go over her first appearance. Her power is just pure magic. I'm going to show you pictures, especially from her last issue, where it's magic. That's all she does, and that's a little uncompelling because there's nothing that she can't do. She turns silk into a fire hose that shoots out water, and then she has the water hose start to shoot fire. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's what happened. Now, one of the other things, unfortunately, about appearing in military comics is this was also the introduction of Black Hawk and Death Patrol, which was by far more popular than Miss America. See, I think that she was the only superpowered person on the pages of military comics. Quality put out a lot of publications, and her being superpowered would have been better serviced on other, in other comics where having superpowers would be more favorable. But her being the only superpowered character in the first of 7 appearances, with everybody else being non-superpowered but military-oriented, which is probably why she wasn't more well-received. Now, I have not read a lot of the DC comic books from the 80s, and I've only recently, within the last 5 years, since I've actually started doing these videos, that I really know about the Freedom Fighters. I don't think DC actually realized that they owned Miss America at first, because even though DC acquired Quality in 1956, Miss America wouldn't be used for over 20 years. They brought her around and they made a story where they changed her origin story. Instead of the Statue of Liberty giving her powers, which I have to admit, seriously ridiculous, this one isn't much better. Apparently, she was abducted in broad daylight while she was lying unconscious on the bench, just like in the first issue. She was carried to an underground laboratory, and mad scientists experimented on her, who was not a U.S. government scientist. They put her back onto the bench. She was still asleep. Nobody noticed. She returned to the park bench, and then she zapped a tree away like she would do in the first issue, which we're getting ready to cover. And they gave her power more of a science-y, as they put it here, and her powers were defined with science-y sounding mumbo-jumbo instead of simply being magic. She didn't have much of a blip in the DC, and unless there's a big demand for her character to come back, I don't see her really affecting any future stories either. There's plenty of magic users in DC. They really don't need another one. I mean, her powers don't seem to be different from who she is. Okay, let's cover the first issue. Miss America, out of the very heart of the spirit that is America comes a new champion of democracy. Young Joan Dale, reporter. I mean, most other Golden Age descriptions are very descriptive about their hero. Okay, anyways, all these panels are important. Having an hour's time before she meets her boss, Joan takes the ferry to Beldor's Island. I thought it was a Liberty Island. Maybe it was different back then. Okay. Gosh, just to think of all the good a person could do if they had the powers that the Statue of Liberty must possess. What? What exactly? What powers do you think the Statue of Liberty possesses? Okay. I wish I had them, but oh well. Gee, I'm sleep. Oh, what kind of power do you possibly think a inanimate statue possesses? I've never heard of the Statue of Liberty possessing any powers but maybe instilling the sense of freedom into people. I mean, seriously. Okay. Slowly, Joan's eyes close and she falls asleep. Suddenly, the statue steps... Oh, my God. Suddenly, the statue steps down and calls to her. Joan, I heard what you said, and I'm going to give you my magic powers. None of this makes any sense. So that you may give your country the help it needs. Promise you will do your best. I promise I will never let you down. Never. None of this makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, I've gone over some goofy origin stories in Golden Age comic books. This is going to be one of the ones that just takes the cake. Anyways, she wakes up from her dream and she's like, oh, I wish I had the powers to make the tree disappear. The tree suddenly disappears. And she's like, it is true, I have the magic powers. That's you came to that assumption rather quickly. She is late for her appointment with her employer, and as she's walking down the street, she sees a gang of ruffians attacking a person. And she shouts the word cowards, and with a wave of her hand, she turns them into doves. What kind of magical powers were you given? The guy thanks her, and she says that she is Miss America. That's what she's calling herself. And then she hears about this building being bombed. She goes to investigate the building, and she's been able to get outside because she's a reporter. She walks over to the FBI's, and they are dismissive of her because... I guess it's because she's a woman and a reporter. She has no business being there. She's not connected with the police in any way. As they slowly disregard her, and it looks like she's shedding a tear, she finds a piece of a bomb, and all of a sudden it shows her the image of a house. I don't even know how that works. I mean, magical detection powers aside, why would the piece of metal show you a house? Anyways, she says she knows where the house is, and she makes her way there, and she sees a guy who's called Mr. Gross. He is actually the manager of the factory that just got destroyed. The only thing I can think of is maybe he destroyed the factory to be above reproach. Okay, he's talking about how he's paid off people and burned down the building, and Joan overhears this, so she goes to the FBI agent and says that she knows that it's Mr. Gross, and he's just like, don't be silly, it's not him. I'm sorry, Mr. Gross. We have cranks like her come in every day. Perfectly all right. Skip it. She doesn't like the fact that she's being disregarded, so she's going to take care of this herself. So she goes to the factory that she knows she's going to get bombed, and a couple of thugs come at her, and she turns them into trees. All right, let's give her all the powers. I mean, seriously, that's... Does she ever change anybody back? I mean, do her powers have a limited amount of time frame? I don't know. She goes around to another part of the factory, and she sees this guy putting a bomb by an airplane. So I'm guessing this is an airplane factory. It looks like they're going to toss the bomb at her, and all of a sudden, she possesses the ability to control the bomb. As she starts to throw it at them with her mind, apparently, they get into the car and they race off. And as they try to get away from the bomb, she makes the bomb go faster, and it blows up the car with the guys in it. So she killed them. Why didn't she just change them into something else? I mean, she changed some guys into doves and the others into trees, but these guys have to die? I mean, okay. One of the things I love about Quality Comics is the way they set up their panels. They're able to tell such a large story in just a short amount of time. So it says, a few minutes later, Miss America runs up the walk of her boss's home. Remember, she's a reporter. And for some reason, Mr. Gross is at her boss's home. And we don't see her boss anywhere. It says she walks to her boss's home, and Mr. Gross happens to be there. So he pulls a gun out on her, and she is able to make the gun come to her. As she holds him at gunpoint, makes him write a confession, and they turn, and she takes him to the FBI office. He's knocking on the door. What the? Gross? You? Yes, me, for heaven's sakes. Put me in jail before that wildcat gets me again. And she turns and winks at us. And that's it. There's no she will return next week. No indication the story is ended except for the fact that she's winking at us. We get a really good display of the power she has. She can do anything. I guess when you have magical powers, you really can't be stopped. She doesn't have a costume yet, and as I stated earlier, she would get the costume in issue 4. So, that's the first issue. That's basically how the other issues would go. She solved things by magic. She took things that weren't what they were and changed them into whatever she needed. She deus ex machina everything. Hey, I need a net. I have a net. I'm going to change the planes into chickens. The plane turns into chickens. I need to turn the silken ribbon into a fire hose. Here's an example of all the things she can do, and the fact that she was constantly changing her costume. But yeah, that's 7 issues. So there's only so much that we can show. I do appreciate one thing about Quality Comics is they can take a simple 6-page story and change it into a larger story based on how they did panels. So that is one thing that is interesting about Quality Comics is how they paneled out their story. So they can take a limited amount of space and make a larger story. All right, that is Miss America, and not the one from the pageant, the one from the comics. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something about this character. Don't think that I'm putting this character down when I said she was uncompelling. When you can do basically anything, where is your weakness when there's nothing that you can't do? Okay. So we'll go ahead and cover the other Miss America on the next video. So until then, I'll be seeing you.